After losing both her parents during the pandemic and going through the end of a long-term relationship, Nikki MacLeod turned to an online chat room in search of company to ease her loneliness.
And that was where Nikki met oil rig worker Alla Morgan. The pair spoke for months and formed a relationship, but when Nikki became suspicious of Alla's true identity, Alla put her mind at ease. Let's have a look.
Good morning, Nikki. Hope you had a wonderful night. You know the reason of sending you this video to you? Because I want to prove myself to you and hope this video proves you wrong with all the negative thoughts. It's Alla Morgan. I wanted to reach out to reassure you that I am sincere and have no connection to any scams. Your trust means a lot to me.
Unfortunately for Nikki, everything was not as it seemed. Alla Morgan was a deepfake AI scam, conning her out of £17,000. Nikki joins us now, and in the studio with us is cybersecurity expert Jake Moore. Nikki, good morning to you. This is a huge amount of money to lose. Do you know who Alla Morgan even is? Do you know if that is a real person?
Absolutely not. No, I'm sure the person behind it is almost certainly not a woman, and is probably a man somewhere in the world. Who knows where they are?
Talk to us about how you're a smart woman, you're a retired lecturer, I think you're an expert in neuroscience. How someone like you falls prey to a romance scam like this?
I guess I was getting pretty lonely. I'd had a whole series of upsets. I lost my partner, I lost my parents, and my partner left with our 2 children in the middle of the lockdown. So I guess I was getting pretty lonely, actually. I've got this lovely... Oh, I didn't have this dog at the time, but I've since got her, and she's my best pal now. But I was getting lonely, and I just wanted someone to talk to, I think. And so I just started talking to people. It was on Facebook, in various chat rooms on Facebook. And I was talking to one person who was called Alla Morgan, who was on an oil rig in the Aegean Sea. And then this particular person disappeared. And then suddenly, miraculously, in my Facebook feed, another Alla Morgan reappeared. So I was very curious, and so I started asking them questions about were they the real or... And then she said, no, I'm on a different oil rig, and the other Alla Morgan is fake. And my suspicions were already raised, but we got on so well. She was a really good conversationalist, and we had I've spent millions of words talking to her on Facebook Messenger, on WhatsApp, on Signal, on Telegram, and every conceivable media platform you can imagine. And we just had really good conversations. But I did start to get very suspicious, and eventually she sent me those videos to convince me that she was real. And I was completely convinced and fell even more in love with her. And eventually she said she was going to come and visit me in Scotland. And I thought, that's a really lovely idea. But for her to visit me in Scotland, she needed to take a helicopter from the oil rig to land in Edinburgh Airport. And so I got put in touch with, apparently, the HR department of her oil company, which was called SBM Offshore. And the HR department said, oh, you need to pay $2,500 for this helicopter flight. And Alla said, yeah, sure, just pay them. I'll pay you back. I've got $1.5 million in my bank account. So I did, and I paid it, and had to fill in all sorts of forms. They'd faked these documents, which were very authentic looking, and I believed it. But then the company said, oh, you need to pay her another $12,000 to compensate for her being on holiday with you. Oh, at which point I drew the line and said, no, I'm not paying that. And so she never arrived. And so our conversation went on and on and on from there. And eventually we got talking about my daughter who'd recently separated from her husband. And she wanted to buy a house up in Aberdeen. And so Alla said, oh, that's easy, I'll just buy her a house. And so she said, yeah, you just go into my bank account and I'll give you money. You can just take out £65,000, £1,000, which will actually buy you a 2-bedroom flat in Aberdeen, which I find amazing anyway. So I went into a bank account, and it was obviously a fake bank. It's called Terrafin Capital. Don't go anywhere near it. And the account was fake. but she said, just take the money and pop it into your account. So I did that, and suddenly the bank account was frozen, and I was getting emails from the bank asking me to pay money to unfreeze the account, which is where all this money started to leak out of my bank account.
Nikki, it's
because Alla said, don't worry, I'll pay it all back. I've got $1.5 million in my bank account, which I could see because I could see her bank account, although I now know it was all completely fake. So I started paying this money, and one of the payments I made for the bank didn't go through. And so they said, oh, why don't you contact your bank and get that payment checked? Gosh. Which was a stupid thing for them to do, because when I spoke to the bank, they suddenly realised, they told me that I'd been scammed. And that was they met this scam many hundreds of times before.
And that was the point where you realised what was going on.
Your bank account is fake. Don't give them any more money. No. And eventually the bank managed to get me some money back. They got £7,000 back. But because I'd given most of the money via PayPal, they couldn't get that back. Right. But PayPal did give me some money back. They gave me about £4,000 back at one point. The bank gave me £3,000 and PayPal gave me £2,000 back. Gosh. And the reason PayPal gave it back was I hadn't ticked the box that said family and friends. If you tick this box with PayPal that says family and friends, Nikki, PayPal will wipe the hands of anything to do with the payment.
Nikki,
I spoke to PayPal
hundreds of times on the telephone, thing.
And I said that all these large payments that went out of my bank
this story.
were fraudulent.
It's so
but PayPal
hard.
said, no, you tick family and friends, there's nothing we can do
so
about
difficult
it.
to hear this story.
All that money is still with the scammers. And
Jake,
I'm now
when we listen to Nikki,
£10,000 out of pocket.
When we listen to Nikki talking about her story there, you imagine a scammer trying to avoid contact. She was suspicious. The scammer was reassuring her. She was saying that she wanted to meet her. Yeah. The helicopter payment was so that they could meet. And somehow the scammer managed to persuade a suspicious Nikki that she was, in fact, real. What do we learn from that?
Well, it is relatively believable, and especially when Nikki's got that suspicion, what we're finding is scammers and criminals are able to up their ways in trying to appease those suspicions by adding videos. Now, we don't think that if we see a video, it's going to be fake, but criminals, of course, they're using AI technology as well to emphasise that it is a genuine video. And by looking at those videos, at first glance, you might think that it is the real thing. But if we think about mouth synchronization, this is what criminals will try and do first, is take an actual video and just change the mouth. But you may find that the mouth and the voice just doesn't match up. And so that should raise a flag when you initially see that. But it's not just that you've got distortion. So when people are moving, you might find that around their head and their neck, the background might be extra blurry. And that can just, again, add an extra red flag. But what we're seeing here is the eye movement. It's very strange. That shouldn't happen in a video like this, especially when you pause on that. Yeah.
And I know that you've generated an AI version of me. So with all of that information, let's see if viewers can spot all of those tells on this AI Susanna Reid.
OK.
Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Britain. I am Susanna Reid and we've got all the latest news, debates and interviews coming your way this morning. From world events to entertainment, we've got it all covered. But here's a twist. I am not actually Susanna Reid. I'm an AI version of her.
You see, I could tell immediately, of course, because I know exactly what I was saying that morning, and it wasn't that. But you're right, the voice did not synchronise with the lips, and there were other movements. But AI is going to get better and better.
It is.
And we apologise to Nikki because, unfortunately, she lost her earpiece, which meant she couldn't hear what you were saying, Ed, and that's why we had to just interrupt her. Nikki, how do you feel now that you know this was all a scam, despite your suspicions, despite all of your knowledge that it might be, you still fell victim to it? What would you say to others in that situation?
I'd say never, ever give anybody any money, not a single penny, to somebody you meet on the internet, unless you meet them in an actual person. Because you cannot trust anybody out there. The quality of those videos was so incredible. I completely fell for it. And I completely fell for her, quite obviously. And I feel really stupid now. But
you're not alone, Nikki.
I did fall for it.
I don't know if it comes as any consolation,
I'm sure I'm
but
not
these
alone.
videos are very sophisticated and they're only getting more sophisticated. But you've got your lovely dog now, which is fantastic. We just need to let you know that a spokesperson for PayPal said, we're very sorry to hear about what happened to Ms MacLeod. They tell consumers be wary if you receive unusual payment requests that target your emotions with a sense of urgency, and the request is to move large amounts of money. Jake, it's not just about the video. She was sucked into this.
Yes.
What advice have you got?
Yeah, so if you notice any of those things we've just mentioned, that should raise a red flag. Maybe show someone who's not so emotionally or financially invested into it.
But
they are
even if the video is convincing, Jake, you still should not pay any money.
Absolutely, but you can use detection tools. They are out there and coming more into play. And if you ever feel like it might be strange, run it through that as well.
OK. Thank you very much indeed to both you and to Nikki.